Hello, ladies and gents! Let's do something fun today. A few weeks ago we had a look at the best tanks in the game right now by average win chance and also by profitability, tier 5 to tier 10, and quite a few of you commented that you wouldn't mind having a look at the other end of the spectrum either. I'm more than happy to oblige, so here we are today with the worst performing tanks in the game these days. Now if you want to jump right ahead to the specific tank classes, there are some timestamps waiting for you in the description below. Otherwise, just a few very quick words about the background for these statistics. Once again, the source is VB Addict, also link down below for the website, which is a very useful website for those looking to enrich their tanking experience mostly by statistics. Now all these numbers are an average from the last 30 days, listing tanks with at least 1000 games played in this time frame. We will once again look at all classes, both for regular and for premium tanks separately, tier 5 to tier 10, however our only metric today is the average win rate. While there are plenty of machines in the game that lose a ton of credits on average, the worst ones would be pretty much all tier 10s anyway, so it doesn't give us much information. That said, let's have a look at the worst 3 tanks by average win rate for each class, starting with the light tanks. So, looking at the non-premium light tanks by performance, I was a little bit surprised to find the Leopard on the bottom of the list with a very measly 46.5% average wins. I actually quite enjoyed my time with this little thing that's basically a slightly better looks a tier higher, but I guess it's true that because of its tier, its competitiveness certainly suffers. The second worst performing light tank on this list is the tier 6 American T21, a highly mobile little devil with an insane rate of fire, clocking in at just under 47% average wins. Followed by a high tier fan favorite, the tier 8 American dirt monster, the T49. Now 48.3% average wins is not horrible, but it certainly isn't great either. It's kinda expected though. A lot of people do extremely well in this little troll of a tank, but it certainly is a tricky one to play well, at least consistently, and it's also quite prone to throw you back from time to time. Low win chance or not though, this thing is fun. Now would be the time to look at the premium light tanks in the game, but as we well know there are only actually quite a few of them tier 5 and up. And it turns out that they are pretty well played as well, with even the weakest Type 62 finishing above 50% average wins. So that means no negative top list for the premium light tanks. Instead, let's jump over to the mediums. Bottom of the list for the regular tanks is the tier 5 Japanese Type 3 Chinu, a relatively underwhelming machine with a bare 45.5% average wins under its belt, which is followed by a bit of a surprise actually, the tier 8 Soviet T44 with only 46.2 average wins. I have to say this thing was certainly one of my least favorite tier 8 mediums until now, and while I know it has its fan base, it's good to know that it wasn't just me struggling with it. And finally in third place we have a machine that I didn't try until now, and after this I certainly won't rush to do it either. The relatively new French tier 5, the Renault G1, finishing at a measly 46.23% average wins in the last 30 days. Popping over to the premium mediums, there are no big surprises here really, pretty much all of the least popular choices are present. Still though, these worst win percentages are not as bad as their regular counterparts. Bottom of the list is the Panther M10, this tier 7 American medium that, preferential matchmaking or not, has finished with only 47.7% average wins. Next on the list is the German, at least in the game, Panzerkampfwagen T25, where its low rate of fire and sluggish mobility resulted in only 48% wins. And finally it's another German on the list, the Panther 88. Now this little sniper is not doing that badly actually, with an average of 48.5%, but it's still far from perfect for a tier 8 premium medium. Next on the list are the regular heavy tanks. Or are they? As expected, the worst played heavy tanks are pretty much all machines that will do quite poorly in an in-your-face brawl that a lot of people associate with typical heavy tank playstyle. Not all heavy tanks are frontline warriors though. But let's see the details. top, or better to say bottom of the list, is the Tier 8 Kanavan with a quite bad 46.2% average wins. Remember, as it's an average, that means that a lot of players have performed a lot worse than this in this thing. Alright, well, the Kanavan was pretty much expected, although I'm actually kinda looking forward trying it out for myself. The next two though are a bit of a surprise. In second place we have the German Tier 5 heavy, the VK3001H, that, while it can seldom play like a real heavy tank, gets an absolutely awesome Tier 7 tank gun, the Waffe, already at Tier 5. Great gun or not though, its average win percent remains at 47.3. The third place is perhaps the biggest surprise for me, in form of the Tier 6 French ARL44. Now it might have a slow rate of fire, but that gun can slap around Tier 8s even, and it's mounted on a Tier 6 heavy. Still, it only gets just below 47.5% average wins. Moving over to the premium heavies, it's all Tier 8 goodness, quote unquote, although there are some pretty interesting facts about the list. So, the title of the lowest average win percentage goes to the not so popular IS-3A, that sacrifices mobility and accuracy compared to the regular IS-3 in order to gain better rate of fire and standard APCR shells. Doesn't seem to be like an awfully amazing trade though, as it only clocks in just under 47.5% average wins. Next on the list are two recent ones, the T-34 Black Edition with 47.47% and the IS-6 Black Edition at 49.2%. Now I did check, and actually all the Black Edition tanks seem to perform worse compared to their normal premium counterparts, despite having the exact same statistics. I'm guessing this is because they were mostly picked up by newer, less experienced players, as the long-term player base mostly owns these machines already if they wanted to get them in the first place. I don't think many of them went ahead and bought a second version of the same tank with a different skin, revised price point or not. Next up, it's time to look at them tank destroyers, and yes, the infamous Churchill gun carrier is here, although it's in a very interesting company. So, for the regular TDs, the first place goes to the Tier 8 Soviet non-turreted wonder, that's the Su-101, with an absolutely abysmal average of 44.2% wins only. This baby right here has the lowest score of all of the tanks in the game, Tier 5 and up, and man do I not look forward to grind through it. The second place was a bit of a surprise for me, to be honest, as it's actually a Tier 10 machine among the top worst performers, the Object 268. BL10 or not, this thing performed in the last 30 days barely better than the dreaded Su-101 with only 44.23% average wins. The famous Troll Cannon is just not that special at this tier anymore, and the machine is quite simply outclassed by a lot of its opposition. And last but not least, we have of course everyone's favorite Churchill gun carrier at Tier 6 that surprisingly actually outperformed the Tier 8 and the Tier 10 with its score of 45.63% average wins. Almost makes me want to play this thing. Nah. Hopping over to the premium TDs, we just found the lowest average win percentages in premium machines, all led by the first mission reward tank, the not very much loved Stuck 4 at Tier 5, finishing at only 45.96% wins. This thing is closely followed by one of the least popular high-tier premiums, the Kanonenjagdpanzer at Tier 8, with a barely better 45.98% average wins. I have to say, people really do seem to struggle in this thing. And finally, last on the list we have the recently added Kruppsteier Waffenträger at Tier 7, clocking in at 47.14% average. The lack of mobility really hurts this paper tank, but despite that, I don't think it's that bad of a machine, even though it's not a super exciting one either. I'm guessing that in time it will perform a little bit better, people still need to figure it out, I guess. So that was it for the tanks, and to finish we will have a look at the self-propelled guns quickly. Once again, we will have a look only at the regular ones here, as the only Tier 5 Plus premium choice is a pretty strong one, so no worse list here, I'm afraid. Among the regular choices though, the worst performer is the French Tier 5 artillery, the catchingly named AMX-13 AM MLE 50, with a rather rubbish 46.6% average wins. I don't think this is that surprising, the French line seems to be really a 50-50 mix of awesome and rubbish really. Next on the line though is a bit of a surprise, the massive Tier 10 American Finger of Death, the T92. Now I'm going to take a wild guess here that this is because a lot of people will just go ahead and try to hit something with those deadly AP shells, but with 0.88 meters dispersion and a very low rate of fire, in a lot of games you will just end up effectively taking out one of your top tier machines from the game. And finally in third place we have the Soviet Tier 5 SPG, the Su-122A, finishing the contest at 47.37% average wins. Alright, this was then a very quick look at the worst performers at the moment in World of Tanks. I do hope that you had some fun going through these lists. If you did, thanks a lot for considering giving this a like or sharing it, and by all means let us know in the comments below which your worst performing tanks are. Everybody seems to have their own nemesis. Now tomorrow it's already Friday, thank God, which of course means some high explosive RNG, and then over the weekend we have this time around some juicy action featuring a CDC wrecking face in a Tier 10 match and the VK4502B slapping about the enemy team. Thank you very much for watching everyone, and I look forward to seeing you again in one of the next videos.